subscribe to me, Mike Patey. You know you want to. What's up guys, Jonathan here from Plane Schemer at Evoke Aviation. Today we're going to be doing some graphic striping layout. So one of the things we do at Plane Schemer is we actually, after we create the design, we can create a bunch of stencils so that you can lay out your airplane. It makes life a lot easier. And then a lot of people are always asking, well, how do I lay them out? How do I apply them? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through a project that's relatively simple. It'll be a really good example of how to lay these graphics out, how to make them work on your airplane. It'll save you a ton of time, a ton of energy. So, a couple of things before we get started that you're gonna need. Of course, you need a scheme, so we're gonna be working off of this design today. Other than that, a couple of tools before you get started. Just a little simple masking tape. You're gonna need a measuring tape or a measuring device, couple of wet erase markers just to mark your graphics when you're laying them out on the airplane. It has to be wet erase markers. Dry erase markers don't work. Sharpies, definitely a no-go. You're never gonna be able to get them off of there. It'll be a permanent dot on your airplane. I'm sure you don't want that. And then some razor blades and some fine line tape. All right, so what I wanna do is first take a look at the graphics. So this is what you typically get in a package. You'll get all of your design will be cut up into different sections. It'll be on a larger sheet. So you'll lay it out flat on a table like this, and then you'll cut out each piece as you need it. What we're gonna do is start off really simple and easy. We're gonna do the horizontal stabilizer first. I like to do the easiest part of the aircraft and then work my way up to the larger sections. You just make sure everything's gonna work like you want it to. Typically when you're doing like a bigger graphic, it's gonna be a two-person job. I do have a few tips and tricks to make that a one-person job. So we've got our first horizontal stabilizer graphic here. It looks pretty similar front to back, so we wanna figure out which one is the front and the back. We'll just look at our rendering. And it looks like from the picture, I can see this little rounded area right here is gonna go on the trailing edge of the elevator. So through my advanced calculations, I've discovered that this is the top right horizontal stabilizer graphic. Looking at the picture, basically what we've got here that you see in the center section, this is going to be our gray. So in this design, we'll show you guys a picture of what it's supposed to look like. But essentially we're gonna paint the gray color first. The white has already been applied to the aircraft, so the white base coat is down. We're gonna paint this gray stripe, and then on the outboard section of that gray stripe, we'll reverse mask this later and paint the blue. But the first thing we've gotta do is just get these in position, get them in place. What I like to do is, this is the indicator of where the stripe should end on the trailing edge of the aircraft. Whatever surface, we typically use the trailing edge of the wing, the trailing edge of the elevator, trailing edge of the rudder for every graphic, and then use that as our guide. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually trace the trailing edge of this graphic. And from the image we've got, this kind of catches the trailing edge of the elevator, which is what we're gonna use for our lineup point. So I'm gonna very carefully, with my straight razor blade here, trim around that edge of the vinyl, get rid of that. There we go, get that out of the way. And I don't like to have a lot of excess paper on these graphics. So let's just go ahead and carefully trim around the graphics so we don't remove anything we don't want to remove. And pretty much all we're trying to save is the stripe inside of this pattern. A lot of designs, if they've got multiple stripes, they'll have a little more going on. This one's a little simple, so it's just gonna be easy to show you how to lay it out. Let's see. All right, that's probably good enough. So let's stick this thing on the airplane, see if we can get it lined up where we want it to go. first thing we need to do is make sure we get this elevator in the position it's gonna be when the stripe is laid out on here. So when the elevators are in the neutral position, when the aircraft is sitting, we want all the stripes to line up nice and straight. So pretty simple fix on this. Okay, there we go. It doesn't take a lot, just need enough to keep this from moving around a little bit. The first graphic is always the easiest. The first one is gonna be where we basically find our best points to line this graphic up. We try to use points on the aircraft that are gonna be easy to replicate in different areas. So in this particular design, the trailing edge is gonna be what we're gonna use. You can see where this line lines up with the trailing edge, and then we've got this bit here that's gonna be right at the point of the elevator. So when we put the graphic on the bottom, it makes it very easy to wrap that tape around and get a nice smooth transition from the top design to the bottom design. Normally, this is the point where I look to see if we've got anything a little strange, where we may not want a stripe inside of a control surface hole or something like that. So in this particular situation, we actually do have, if you can see that, the point of this stripe, which is about right here, actually lands directly in the hole cut out for the control surface hardware. So what we may need to do is let's take a look and see if we can shift this outboard. I think that's gonna throw the design off just a little bit too much. And so we're just gonna adjust on the fly a little bit here. You can make some subtle adjustments like this to the design. We always leave a little bit of room for you to make the decision so that something like this doesn't happen. We just wouldn't want this point to fall inside of this control surface hole and you would lose that part of the design. So what I'm gonna do is pick a really simple measurement from the back. And this is all about keeping things easy. We're doing this is live action. I haven't tested this, we're doing this as we go, so you guys can know that, you know, I have to make adjustments, you're gonna have to make adjustments. That is just part of the fun here. And I do tell people painting is an art, you know, there's certain things that I'm gonna like and try to focus on that other people won't see. It just all really depends on what you like, and at the end of the day, it is your airplane and your design, and you have the ability to make some decisions. So that's perfect. So that gets the point out of the hole. Then we also have a really, really easy measurement that we're gonna be able to follow on the bottom and on the other side, because we're just using our 1/2" tape as a measuring tool. So that simplifies life a little bit there. So what I'm gonna do now is just tack this in place on the back corner so the graphic can't go anywhere. Make sure this is laid out really nice and smooth. So this is a key thing to keep in mind here. The graphic has to be laid out really nice and smooth. You don't want any wrinkles in it, because when you go to press that down, with this being such a flat graphic, if you have any wrinkles or anything in the graphic before you go to press it down, it's gonna wanna move around, you'll get a wrinkle in it, and you'll get something you're gonna have to deal with a little bit later. Those are all things that you can fix. So if you do mess up a wrinkle of graphic, it's all fixable. You can pretty much do it with these two items right here. You can fix any kind of mistake. Trust me, we all make them. The graphics, especially when you get into the bigger ones, they get a little harder to work with, especially when you've got a little bit of a curve. So, everything's fixable. Don't stress. If you mess one up, don't stress about it. If you look here, that 1/2" actually put us in a perfect position here on the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer. So we want to save that and take this graphic in place. So we've got a little bit of a wrinkle back there. I'm gonna try that again. Get this smoothed out just a little bit. And one thing that you want to keep in mind on this first graphic is you want to lay this out in a way that is easy to replicate, because we're gonna have to do this 3 more times and you want all of these graphics to line up with each other. So if you try to twist or manipulate the first graphic, all three of them are gonna have to be done the same way. So you want this to lay down really naturally in a really nice, easy, flat spot, and then you'll be able to match it really easily on the other graphics. So I've got it in a good position. I'm not overthinking it. The graphic fits the airplane perfect. Now, what we're doing here, for laying down the graphic, you don't want to do the entire graphic at once. You can on something smaller like this, but you really want to break this into two pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm just laying down the center of this graphic. I'm making sure that it's taped down really, really well. Can't go anywhere. What I'm going to do is pull this tape loose, and this piece, we're gonna fold this back over itself. Then we're gonna take the graphic and go ahead and pull the backing paper off of this. Very carefully. If you pull a little too fast, sometimes you'll get a little point or something that'll wanna stick to the paper. So as you're pulling it back, just make sure that you're watching and keeping a keen eye on what you're doing. Once again, everything's fixable, but if you can avoid having any problems, you definitely want to do that, because every little problem is a little bit of time. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this backing paper up out of the way so we don't cut the surface underneath it. We're going to very carefully cut this paper out of the way. And it just so happens that I have a spreader in my back pocket. You're gonna need one of these too. I missed that in the first bit. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start from the center of this graphic and press from the inside going out. On this first one, I'm just letting the paper naturally fall where it wants to. The paper doesn't stretch, so it's not gonna allow the graphic to go anywhere crazy unless you're pulling it. So that's why I just very carefully, very lightly lay it down. And press this into place. And then you get around the corner, just kind of press that down a little bit. Anything that wraps around is going to get cut off, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Let's just make sure it's pressed down really good. Front half is stuck. The back half is even easier than the front. All we're gonna do is pull this tape out of the way so that we can pull our transfer paper all the way back to the center of the graphic. Anyways, we'll get that later. Also making a huge mess as part of this process too. As long as it's all off camera, you'll never know. So the front half is stuck, so we don't have to worry about the graphic moving anymore. We just fold that half over the front. It doesn't matter which direction you do this. You can do the front first, you can do the back first. And I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of a trick on a small one that you would use on the big graphic. So instead of us pulling the entire backing paper off and having to deal with all this excess back here possibly sticking to the plane in the wrong place, what we can do is we can just pull part of it back and then kind of slightly roll it as you go. And then that little fold in there is also going to keep it off the plane. So you can kind of just pull that back. It holds it up at a nice height so you can stick it down nice and flat. We're just going to squeegee this from the center going out. There you go. So we have officially striped the top of our horizontal stabilizer. Pretty much everything goes away except for the yellow vinyl. So once everything's pressed down really good, we can just pull this transfer paper off the top. And this is going to be kind of the same process. You want to do this nice and slow to make sure you don't pull up any of the vinyl or any points or anything under there. Just very carefully peel the backing or the transfer paper back over itself. So here we've got a little point starting to want to pull up with it. So what you can do is before you go too far, you see you would just keep going, it'll just go with it. The paper is so rigid, it's going to make sure that when you press that back down, that the point goes back in place where it needs to go. So you can take your razor blade, or you can take something like a fingernail or credit card or something. If you just take the very front of that point and press it down on the paint, it'll stick, and then you just keep going. So top graphics on, it's stuck. What we're gonna do is replicate the exact same process for the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is throw a piece of 1/2" fine line on the trailing edge. We'll line it up with the back just like we did this. I'll look around the corner. I'll make sure that both the graphics are hitting in the same place, so that when I wrap the fine line tape around that to button everything up later, it lines up nice. Same on the front. I'll stand in front of it and just sight down it and make sure that both stripes are lining up in the right place. So let's get to work. Let's get that taken care of. All right, we've got the top graphic and the bottom graphic both stuck. We can look down to make sure everything's lined up correctly. I can sight down the back of the elevator and the stripes line up nice and perfect. Same here on the corners. We've just got these graphics lined up and the points almost perfectly touch each other within like a 32nd of an inch, which is great. And so far we've done all this. We haven't had to pull a single measurement. We haven't had to pull a single stripe by hand. Everything was done with the graphics and it's all included in here. What we're gonna do next is go ahead and cut these graphics loose here at the transition between the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. Then we're just gonna nice and lightly press these pinstripes down into place. We'll do the same thing for the bottom real quick. We can pull this tape loose. And there you go. So we've got our first graphic on there. We've done the easy part. We've tackled the horizontal stabilizers. Instead of cutting it off there, I want to do a big graphic, so we're going to do a wing. We won't go into as much detail, but it's the same exact steps. It's going to be on a little bit larger scale, and I'll just show you what it looks like when you do a bigger graphic, and I'll show you how to do that by yourself. Okay, so I've got the wing laid out, nice and flat. We lined it up just like we did the horizontal stabilizer. Trailing edge of the wingtip lines up perfect with the graphic. We've pressed out as much of this wrinkle as we can. It's got a little bit of a ruffle here. That's gonna press out when we lay everything down flat with the squeegee. Tack it down here. And since this is a bigger graphic, what I wanna do is give myself a couple of benchmarks to hit as I'm laying the graphic down flat, just to make sure that I'm putting this in place where it needs to be. What I'm gonna do is stick a little bit of tape underneath the edge, something like that. You're gonna take that wet erase pen and you're gonna mark across, so you can see that, across your paper and onto your tape. And then we're gonna do that, 4 or 5 times down the length of the graphic, so we've got something good to shoot for when we're laying that down. Some of the people in our shop call these butter bars. I don't know why. They just say, hey, put down them butter bars. And I'm like, okay, I guess they kind of look like butter bars. It is the South, it's Alabama. We put a little bit of butter on everything. So I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of a trick if you're doing a really big graphic in a smaller scale. So when you're doing the fuselage, if you are working by yourself and you're good with a razor blade, you can do this trick and it's gonna save you a little bit of a headache. It's a little bit of a pain to set up in the beginning. But instead of peeling this entire section off, what we can do is very carefully, with this roll right here, we're gonna score this paper without cutting all the way through the vinyl. All right, super easy, nothing to it. Okay, so we're gonna peel that paper back. So now what we've got is a really nice little fold here that's going to help hold the vinyl up. So we're not trying to hold the entire piece and lay it down at one time. We can just do it from the middle out, just like we're going to be able to do from the front, which is a little simpler. Just going to pull a little bit more of this back. I can hold down on the paper, don't have to worry about anything sticking. all this stuff can just stay loose back here. And then I can start to side in my graphics. My butter bar marks that I've left here. You know, we're hitting right on the money right now. And there you go. I mean, you can see we're really, really close over the length of, you know, 4 feet, 5 feet, something like that, to only be off maybe what, a 32nd of an inch or something, a 16th of an inch. It's pretty sweet, pretty awesome. Once you get the groove of it, you can have one of these things striped before lunch. I'm kidding, it takes a little longer than that. I forgot a step, and luckily you guys are all there to watch me and keep me in check. I forgot to put my little marks on here. So let me put the marks on here real quick. All right, flip this over. Let's get this back out of the way. All right, so my graphic accidentally stuck to the airplane. Not a big deal until you squeegee it down. If it sticks, very carefully take the paper. Don't freak out. Just take the paper and you want to pull it back up without stretching it. I'm gonna go ahead and line this corner up. I can press this down, then I can take this little bit right here. I can pull it up a little bit, maybe. Bam, check that out. Right on the money. It doesn't get any closer than that. There you go, folks. It's that easy to stick these graphics on there. You can do this with simpler designs, complex designs. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's that simple. It's really not too complicated, so don't overthink it. I'm gonna go get that. Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for checking out our content. We've got more videos coming soon with a little more detail. We're gonna be going through a few more tips and tricks for vinyl layout, painting, all kinds of different stuff. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, check us out on Facebook, click the bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next airplane.